Hey guys, welcome to the Praxis Elementary Education Level 2 practice test. So if this you haven't done any of our practice tests before, there are 4 of them. Level 1 is the easiest for most people. Level 4 is the hardest. Right? So we're at level 2, somewhere kind of in between. So we have 20 questions here, and in the description are all of the questions with the answer choices. So what I would do is first go through all of that, answer the questions, then come back here, watch the video, see how well you did, and also get necessary information about what concepts you really have to have in your mind to be ready for Praxis Elementary Education exam. Also should say we do have a mobile app coming right now as I make this video. It is the middle of January 2021. The app will be out in early February, so I would be on the lookout for that. It'll be free to install, and I think be very useful for you. Have nearly 2,000 practice questions for the Praxis, and that really the best way to know when it's coming is to just subscribe to the channel, right? And we will be having updates as the app is out to make sure you know it and can download it and play around with it, see if you like it. Okay, let's start here. Question 1: area of a circle with diameter of 6. Okay, so what we need to know is, so first the formula for area of a circle you must know, right, is pi r squared. You will face at least 1, if not 2, questions on area of a circle. So area of a circle is pi r squared. And then this one just gives us diameter, right? So when you're looking at a circle, diameter is like this whole thing. Radius is just this much, right? So radius is just half. Radius is half of diameter. So where it says diameter is 6, radius is 3, right? Just 6 divided by 2. If I know that the radius is 3, then area is pi, radius we just said was 3 squared. Yeah, 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9. Our answer is 9 pi. There's question number 1. Pretty simple, but we do need to know those two things. Area equals pi r squared, radius is half of diameter. If you don't know either of those, then these circle questions are hard. Okay, this one they just sort of asked it backwards. So it says circumference of a circle is 20 pi. What is the area? Okay, so adds one more thing we got to know. Circumference, whoops, is pi times diameter. Okay, that's how we find circumference. Okay, so they say circumference of a circle is 20 times pi. Okay, so what that means is, right, so there they take away that pi, and we're left with d is 20, right? So if we know that, so now we know here d equals 20, and they want us to solve for area, right? And we remember from that first question, area is pi r squared. Okay, if d is 20, what is the radius? Half of 20, right? So we can say radius is 10, and now we can go ahead and solve, right? Area is pi r squared. Radius is 10. 10 squared is 10 times 10 is 100. Throw a pi on there. Area equals 100 pi. So there we go. Really not too complicated, but they did make you do a couple of extra steps, as well as knowing that circumference is pi times diameter. Okay, so there are no more things that you need to know for this exam for circles, right? You got 3 things. 1, diameter is twice as big as radius. 2, area equals pi r squared. 3, circumference equals pi times diameter. Okay, and I would probably know them in that order. Like, it's pretty likely you're going to get asked at least to know area equals pi r squared, just area of a circle question. Circumference, maybe not. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. Like, obviously in this question you have to know both. formula for circumference and area. Median, okay. So we picked out median in this one, but really you need to be prepared for mode, median, range. Okay, so median is just the middle number, right? So that's what we want to know. So when you have an even data set like this though, right, because there's 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 6. If it's odd, then you just pick directly the middle number and you're done, okay? But with this one is what you do when it's an even set is you take the 2 numbers that are in the middle. So in this case, 2 and 3 are both in the middle, and you just add them up and you divide by 2. Took my pen away for some reason. Divide by 2. Okay, so 2 plus 3 is 5 divided by 2. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5 or 2.5. Okay, and so that's all you do for median. If mean and mode and range, if you feel uncomfortable with those, so we picked median for this practice test, is in below all of the questions in the description is we have links to different videos, and the one on data will go over how to do all of those. So if you have any doubts about that, check out that video. And here we jump to probability. Okay, red ball, green ball, yellow ball. So 3 balls. After a ball is chosen, it cannot be chosen again. What is the probability that a red ball is chosen first and a green ball second? Okay, so what we want to know here is that when they ask for like consecutive probabilities of something happening, is we always multiply those probabilities together, right? So like as an example, if the question is, what is the probability of tossing a coin heads 3 straight times, let's say. Okay, we'll get to this question in a second, but it's more important that you understand the concept, right? And then you can apply it to whatever crazy question they decide to ask you. Okay, so if I'm tossing a fair coin, half chance that it's heads, half chance that it's tails, right? And they say, what are the odds of it happening 3 straight times? Okay, the odds are always a half. Okay, and we always multiply when we're talking about consecutive outcomes. We just multiply them together. Right, and then 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/8. Okay, so that's probably like the simplest consecutive probability question. This one's fairly simple as well, though, right? We could definitely get this one right. So you can't. This is important. If it's chosen, it cannot be chosen again. So we start off with 3 balls, right? I think it's probably fairly obvious that in the beginning, the probability of choosing a red ball is 1/3, right? Okay, so but after I get the red ball, then the red ball gets thrown out. Now there's only 2 balls left. One of them is green, one of them is yellow. So I have a 1/2 chance of getting it to be green. And then we multiply these 2 odds together. 3 times 2 is 6, and we end up with a 1/6 probability. Okay, so knowing that with consecutive outcomes, we multiply the probabilities together or multiply the fractions together is an important concept that you will be tested on. So prepare yourself for it. What exact question they give you, it'll be something like this. You know, like the most typical ones are coins or like with cards or dice. Like those are easy probabilities to get to. If you want more examples, again, check out the video. Right, and it'll in the video down below all of our questions, just find the one that connects to question 4 in probability, and we'll have all those different kinds of examples if you think you need to see them. Question 5. Huntsville's population grows from 25 to 28,000. What is the percent increase? Okay, so you see, I already wrote this formula down. New minus old divided by old. Okay, so for this test, our first thing was knowing a couple of those formulas for circles, right? Like area equals pi r squared. This is the next one. For percent increase, you need to have in your mind new minus old divided by old. In one form or another, you are going to be asked about percent increase or perhaps percent decrease. And all this means is, so I know new minus old. Okay, so what's the new number? 28,000, right? That's the new population. What was the old population? 25,000. And divided by that same old number, which is 25,000. Okay, and that's all we need. Okay, so 28 minus 25 is 3, so 3,000. And when I go 3,000 divided by 25,000, I end up at 0.12 or 12%. Okay, so the key part, the math part, really not that hard. The key part is knowing the formula. So for example, if you go new minus old divided by new, which is a common mistake, right? So in the denominator, we have 28,000 rather than 25,000, then we end up with the wrong answer, of course. Okay, so making sure that we know this formula is locked in our mind, very important. Okay, how to do these. Okay, let me show you the trick if you don't know it. So what we like to start off with is we know that 0.40 equals 4/10. Okay, so I think everybody's pretty comfortable with that, right? And then as they start throwing in zeros, so every time they add 1 0 immediately to the right of the decimal, like we did right here, is we add 1 0 to the denominator, leave everything else the same. Okay, so rather than 4/10, we're going to add 1 0 to the denominator, bottom part of the fraction, and so now it equals 4/100. Okay, if I add one more 0, which was the question, 0.0040 is, rather than 100, it will now be 1,000. Okay, 4 out of 1,000. Okay, and then as you look, we don't see that answer, do we? Okay, right? So, but with 4 out of 1,000, if we divide the top and the bottom both by 4, I'll do it. Put the 4 over 1,000 over here. 4 over 1,000, and then we just divide by 4 over 4. And right, 4 over 4 is 1, so I'm just dividing it by 1, so it's still equal. Equals 4 divided by 4 is 1. 1,000 divided by 4 is 250. And then we do see our answer there with answer choice D, right? And so they just wanted, with the 4 out of 1,000, they just wanted us to reduce it as completely as we could, and that's why we saw that 1 out of 250. But this process right here is what we want to know, right? And so if you want to see a few more examples of this working, again, I have a video that connects to this question where you can see that in process, and so that you get more and more comfortable with the fact that it works. And once the app is out, then really one of the best things is getting more and more practice at answering questions like this yourself, so you're confident that you can do this when it comes time for the test. Thousandths place. Okay, so we just need to know where are all these places for the decimal. So the first number to the right of the decimal is the tenths place. Right there, that 4, that's the tenths. Then we go hundredths for 2, and then we go, that's our thousandths place. We'll say TH for the sake of brevity and time, right? And so our answer is 7, right? So just remembering as we're going to the right of the decimal, tenths, like THS at the end of all these, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. I doubt they'll ask you past thousands. Cardinal number. All right, do we know what a cardinal number is? Cardinal numbers are known as counting numbers, and they indicate quantity. Ordinal numbers, which you also could be asked about, indicate the order or rank of things in a set, such as like sixth in a line, or fourth place, or something like this, or in this case, answer choice B, which is first place. That would be an example of an ordinal number, but not a cardinal number. Nominal numbers name or identify something. So a nominal number, an example could be a zip code or perhaps a player on a team, right? So that's identification. But if we're talking about cardinal numbers, the correct answer here would be this one. And a surprising number of people miss this question, right? So it's a pretty easy concept within pre-numeration, but we want to make sure we know what each of those mean. Cardinal numbers, ordinal numbers, nominal numbers. We need to be familiar with all of those. Okay, jump into social studies. Under the Articles of Confederation, what now widely used practice was not allowed to Congress. Okay, so you really got to be familiar with Articles of Confederation. Questions on, I'm not sure I've seen a PRAXIS elementary ed test that doesn't ask at least one question about the Articles of Confederation, and one of the main weaknesses of that weak federal government was that there was no taxation. Okay, Marbury v. Madison. Okay, so that's a court case that you want to be familiar with. There aren't too many. We'll go over each of them here on the different practice tests that you have to know. But Marbury v. Madison is a common one. The judicial branch having power of review over the other branches was a result of the Marbury v. Madison rather. It helped define the boundary between the executive and judicial branches of government and led to judicial review, which that's the big term you want to know. Okay. Judicial review. If you see those two words, that's probably the correct answer, right? That's what Marbury v. Madison was all about. Gave the Supreme Court more power. What doubled the size of the U.S.? So we want to know that too. Louisiana Purchase. Pretty common question. In 1803, you don't need to know the year, but in 1803, the Louisiana Purchase took place, doubling the size of the country. By 1840, almost 7 million Americans had migrated westward in hopes of securing land and being prosperous. The belief that settlers were destined to expand to the west is often referred to as manifest destiny. So while not this question, that is another term you should be familiar with. Excuse me. Question 12. Which court case was an indirect catalyst for the Civil War? We need to know that that is Dred Scott. So let's talk about this for a second. If you don't know this, or if perhaps you once knew it but it's left your mind, Dred Scott case ruled that a Negro, whether enslaved or free, could not be an American citizen and therefore had no standing to sue in federal court. It also stated that the federal government had no power to regulate slavery in the federal territories. The ruling led to significant amount of dissent from anti-slavery elements in the North and indirectly led to the Civil War. Okay, so that's some background stuff. Really, if you just know Dred Scott case indirectly led to the Civil War, you're in good shape. Again, we have Marbury v. Madison referenced, right? And so it's just one of these examples of like Marbury v. Madison. It shows up whether it's the correct answer or whether it's answer choices. It will show up a few times in some form, and if you're not familiar with the significance of it, it's hard to know if you should guess when we don't know what these things are. Okay, again, Marbury v. Madison was about judicial review. That's all you need to know. Gibbons v. Ogden was concerned with interstate commerce. Okay, in that, as we go back to was what, question 9? Articles of Confederation, right? So interstate commerce is another issue within the Articles of Confederation, right? You have different types of commerce within different states, and so once you pass state lines, how are you supposed to pay for anything? It's a big problem. How are you supposed to tax anybody? Like, it's connected, right? It's obvious and easy to make these connections once you start thinking about it. How are you supposed to tax all these different states with all these different types of commerce? Okay, so anyway, that's Gibbons v. Ogden, interstate commerce. Emancipation Proclamation, that's an executive order by President Abraham Lincoln with the purpose of changing the federal legal status of more than 3 million enslaved people in the designated areas of the South from slave to free. But the question was court case, right? Emancipation Proclamation was not a court case. Question 13. During westward expansion, which of these provided 160 acres of unoccupied land to settlers if they improved the land and lived there for 5 years? Okay, so that's the Homestead Act. We would like to know that. That's an incredible deal if you kind of think about it now, right? 160 acres of land. So the rule was 160 acres of unoccupied land to settlers if they improved the land and lived there for 5 years. That's the Homestead Act. The Monroe Doctrine was a U.S. foreign policy regarding domination of the Americas in 1823. The Kansas-Nebraska Act allowed people in the territories of Kansas and Nebraska to decide for themselves whether or not to allow slavery within their borders. And then finally, the 14th Amendment granted citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, which included former slaves. Okay, so there's social studies come and gone. Let's jump into some science. What is the term for the thick layer surrounding Earth's outer core? That is the mantle. The mantle surrounds the planetary core. The mantle is then surrounded by the crust. The terrestrial planets, which are Earth, Venus, Mars, and Mercury, the Moon, and 2 of Jupiter's moons each have a mantle. The first stage of protein synthesis, that is transcription. So protein synthesis has 2 stages. As we just said, the first stage is transcription, where a messenger molecule, messenger RNA, is formed. This molecule is transcribed from the DNA molecule and carries a copy of the information needed to make a protein. In the second stage, the messenger RNA molecule leaves the nucleus for the cytoplasm, where the cell's ribosomes read the information and start to assemble a protein in a process called translation. So people can occasionally get translation and transcription confused, but here really just knowing first stage is transcription, second stage is translation. Okay, difference between an atom and a molecule. We just want to know that a combination of atoms make up molecules. Atoms, they're the building blocks of matter. Combinations of atoms make up molecules. Okay, and then we have like a paragraph comprehension type of question. So with paragraph comprehension, we just have one strategy that we would like to remember, and that's read the question that they're actually asking us first, because sometimes we get something like this. The word implied. So which of the following is implied by the passage? And so knowing that it's not going to be directly stated, it's going to be something where we have to read in between the lines and try to understand what the author is trying to get at. Okay, and that's how we're going to focus our mind, as opposed to if it was like a point of view question, or that, a lot of times those will be much more directly stated. All right, so let's go. Colorado and Utah are both very popular destinations for skiing, snowboarding, and winter sports. Colorado has many different geographical areas to ski, while in Utah, most ski resorts are located in one geographical area. Colorado also has better temperatures, more powder days, and the ski season lasts longer, which is always implied. Okay, and as we're looking at these answers, is it that Utah has one area with many ski resorts? I would not say that's what is being implied. Colorado is superior to Utah as a ski destination. I would say that's being implied, but let's look at the other answers, see if we like any of the other ones better. Colorado and Utah both have a lot to offer, and are equally good destinations. No, I don't think he's saying that, or she, perhaps. And Utah has better temperatures. No. So really the thing that we are looking for that is being implied is that Colorado is superior as a ski destination, right? You can see like in the second sentence, Colorado has, starting right here, Colorado has many different geographical areas, while in Utah, most ski resorts are located in one. Colorado has better temperature, better powder days, more powder days rather. Ski season lasts longer. So if you're from Utah and you disagree, don't worry about it. Okay, it's just a practice passage, practice paragraph, similar to one that you could easily see on the Praxis. Right? You're just trying to get to what is this author trying to say. They have an opinion on this. It's okay if you don't agree, right? We just want to get the answer right. 18. So we do have to know some poetry stuff here for this test. Which type of poem has 14 lines and is written in iambic pentameter? And the answer that we want is sonnet. So a sonnet has 14 lines and is written in iambic pentameter. Each line has 10 syllables. This means that iambic pentameter is a type of writing, while sonnet is the actual type of poetry. Okay, so we'd like to be able to differentiate that if possible. Okay, Susie and her group have just finished a brainstorm and are about to begin an outline. What stage are they in? So we do have this stuff with stages of writing. That is a topic for Praxis, elementary education. And the stage that they are in is pre-writing. Brainstorming and outlining as well are pre-writing stage activities. If you have any confusion on that, the stages of writing video that we have goes over all this stuff, right? Make sure we've got all that locked in. And then finally, we get to our last question for level 2. A recipe is what type of writing? Narrative, illustrative, descriptive, process. So process writing, that means like how to do something, how something works, or how an event took place. A recipe tells you how to cook a certain meal, so that fits the basic qualifications of process writing. A narrative will tell a story and focuses on who, what, where, when, and why. Illustrative writing starts with a topic sentence and follows up with supporting examples. Descriptive writing uses details to appeal to our 5 senses in regard to a person, place, or thing. Process writing involves how to do something, how something works, how an event took place, right? That's what we're looking at for when we're talking about process writing. Okay, so that gets us to the end of the level 2 practice test. I hope the video was useful. If there were any issues, like anything that didn't make sense as I was going through it, please leave a comment. We will try to respond as quickly as possible for you. And again, subscribe to the channel so that you know when the app is coming out, and then you can go ahead and download that and start answering as many practice questions as you can as you're getting ready for Praxis.